My name is Sharon. I'm a recovering addict. Really grateful to be at another Narcotics Anonymous meeting and to be here clean. Thank you, Lisa, for that introduction. I would dare to say our relationship is the epitome of what recovery can do when you apply the spiritual principles to your relationships. I'm nervous. I'm excited. And I'm honored. My clean date is 8/21/98. I always like to share this part of my story up front because I think that it's important to the newcomer. Our literature says that we've never seen an addict who lives the Narcotics Anonymous program use. And since 1998, when I came into the doors of Narcotics Anonymous, I've never found a good enough excuse to use again. So relapse is a reality, but it's not a requirement, and it's not a part of my story. And I like to share that to give somebody hope that's just coming in here for the first time. We hear a lot about relapse, and we know that relapse can give us an opportunity to work a more rigorous program, but it's not a requirement. So I feel obligated to let it be known that since I've come here, I haven't found a reason to use drugs. Now, have I relapsed in other areas, emotionally, spiritually? Absolutely. But I haven't picked up no dope in 23 years. One of the things that I was told to do when I share is to, qualify myself. So I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about myself, where I come from, how I got here, and why I stay. I'm 56 years old, and my mom and dad, I'm actually the product of an adulterous affair. My mother had me at 40 years old, and my dad was alcoholic. The man she was married to, the father that raised me, he was an alcoholic, and he gave my mother permission to go out and have sex with other men because he was impotent from his alcoholism. And so she took that and ran with it, and I was the product of that. And I didn't know for many years that he wasn't my biological father, and I had a lot of negative feelings towards him because he drank a lot, and our house was very dysfunctional. My mother had her own mental health issues. My father was an alcoholic. There was a lot of chaos in our household. And so I just remember one day saying, I hate him. I wish he wasn't my daddy. I wish he wasn't my daddy. And she was like, he ain't your daddy. And that's how I found out that he wasn't my biological father. And I met my biological father once. But he didn't really want to get involved with me. I think it was just too difficult for him. Now that I think back on it, maybe it was just a difficult situation because he wanted my mother to leave my father and she wouldn't. So I know that that's probably where some of my abandonment issues came in early in life. I was molested when I was 5 years old. My mother used to take me to the babysitter, and the babysitter's adopted daughter molested me. And they would, drop me off like 5 in the morning, and the babysitter would put me in the bed with her adopted daughter, and she would fondle me and molest me. And it caused me to have a lot of confusion when I was younger about my sexuality because she was a female. And as a little girl, I used to repeat that same behavior with other little girls. So me and all my little girlfriends used to play boyfriend, girlfriend, and be having full-blown sex, in 5th and 6th grade, little girls spending the night. That's why I'm leaving those closed doors with kids, because you don't know what be going on. And I had a lot of low self-esteem issues as a little girl. They used to tease me. I had a gap, had a real big gap in my teeth, and I had big full lips, and I wasn't really dark and I wasn't really light, so I didn't really identify with either one of those categories. And I remember in the 6th grade, my sister gave me a relaxer and my hair fell out. And, so now I'm bald head, big lips, all that. So the kids used to taunt me and tease me all the time. It was like, dang, why me? And I remember hating my life as a little kid. Like, I wish I could just be anybody else and be anywhere else. And then I'm home with these crazy people because my daddy drunk and my mama screaming and hollering, they fussing, arguing, fighting. They fought and argued so much, I thought that it was like a plot to drive me crazy. Like, this can't even be real. Like every day, y'all argue every day, and so I turned into a fantasy life. I turned, into looking into fantasies. And so, my parents, because of the dysfunction in our household, my parents would buy me a lot of stuff, and I was spoiled because I was raised like an only child. I have siblings that were much older. My mother had me at 40, but she had my oldest brother at 13. And so my siblings and I are a generation apart. So I was raised by myself. And so my parents, they were in a better position when they had me than when they had my siblings. So I had a lot of material things. So from a little girl, I always identified affection or love or the expression of that through stuff, because that's what my parents did. They gave me stuff. And so I had a lot of stuff. I had a lot of toys. I had a lot of Barbies. And so I lived in this fantasy Barbie doll. That was my escape. That was my first escape before the drugs took a hold. And so I didn't have any friends, and the friends that I had, they all had siblings and stuff. So I would practice the same type of stuff that I practiced as an adult, as a kid, and try to manipulate people with my stuff. I'll give you my Barbie if you come back and play with me tomorrow. Don't leave, don't go home, stay a little longer. I'll give you another toy if you stay another hour, that kind of stuff. So I developed that type of, behavior early on. And coupled with the confusion about my sexuality and not really wanting to be into a girl-girl relationship because I morally felt that was wrong. I was raised in the church. My mother was a Pentecostal, you know what I'm saying? So I'm in the Pentecostal church. I feel like that ain't right. I can't be doing that. I'm going to burn in hell for sure. You know what I'm saying? So, when the boys started paying attention to me, and plus I had that low self-esteem, I gravitated to it. So they was like, oh, you pretty, I like your lips. You know what I'm saying? Because they talked about my lips, but then the boys said they liked my lips. So I'm like, okay, let me show you what I can do. And I did. I gave them all my goodies. I laid it all out. I went all the way because I was so desperate for acceptance and love and affection. My mother was affectionate towards me, but she was so preoccupied with this dysfunctional marriage. And I couldn't understand why she wouldn't leave. She was with my father for 44 years, and I remember the day he died. She was like, she didn't want to be by his side when he died. She was like, I've been with this man 44 years. I don't want to watch him take his last breath. And I was like, wow. Anyway, so, I was promiscuous, to say the least. I was very promiscuous, and that just continued to compound my low self-esteem and low self-worth. So I wound up getting married at a young age. I married my high school sweetheart, and he turned out to be an alcoholic. And they say that children, especially women, who are raised in households with alcoholic fathers have a higher tendency to marry alcoholics. And that's exactly what I did. And to backtrack a little bit, I always thought I was really smart. I went to Walnut Hills, and that was part of what kind of compounded the teasing in my neighborhood and community, because I was bused to another neighborhood, and I went to the school that was supposed to be for the smart kids, and I thought I was smarter than you anyway. And when I got to Walnut Hills, everybody was getting high. They were doing, mollies and all this stuff on the front steps. If anybody went to Walnut Hills, that's where you get high on the front steps. You know what I'm saying? And so I tried a lot of little, I experimented back then, right? And I realized back then I kind of liked that speedy high. I smoked marijuana and stuff like that because everybody else did it, but I really liked to be up. I ain't like to be down, because I could be down all by myself. And so when I was, I remember my senior year, we tried some powder, and it was just something to do. It didn't really get a grip on me. And I got married right after high school, had my first son when I was 18. So I was married at 19, divorced at 21. My first husband did everything under the sun that I would allow him to do to me, including urinate on me. He was just foul, to say the least. But he was a crack addict. And I didn't know anything about crack. Crack just came on the scene. So I thought he was just an alcoholic, but he was a crack addict. And, one of the times that he beat me, the police came and they said, this man is not just drunk, he's on dope, and he's going to kill you if you stay with him. Because when I wouldn't give him my money, he would jump on me. So I left, and I never looked back. He had a baby while we were married. Got somebody pregnant while we were married, and that was kind of like the last straw when I left him. And so after having a failed marriage so young, it compounded that low self-esteem again. But I still believed in love, right? I was like, it's still possible. I just picked the wrong guy. So I'm gonna go for the opposite of what I had that time. So I went and I found me another man, right? I said, I found me another man. And my second husband was the opposite of my first husband. He didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he didn't party, he didn't do none of that, right? So I'm like, this gotta be the one. He was the exact opposite, but I didn't take into account. See, we don't be looking at the genealogy of people that we lay down with, their background, and, their mental health issues and their families. We don't look at all that, right? And the fact that his family had a strong line of schizophrenia. And so I got involved with this man. I drug him down the aisle. I was holding my breath. When the pastor was saying, having us repeat the vow, I was holding my breath. Because I didn't know if he was going to change his mind and walk out. That's how desperate I was for him to, marry me. And so we got married, and he did, again, everything under the sun that I allowed him to do. He beat me, he cheated on me, and, he was a biter. He bit me one time, my leg turned purple. The doctor said, a human bite is worse than a dog bite. And you have to ask yourself, what on earth would make you stay with somebody that would treat you like that? When O.J. Simpson was accused of killing his wife, it was right after that we had an argument, and he had stayed out all night, and I cooked him dinner and a cake, and he went to slice the cake, right? But you've been out all night. I'm like, you need to go back and eat wherever you spent the night at, right? And he took that knife and he put it up to my throat. He said, I'll be O.J. Simpson up in this. And when it cut me a little bit. I by the grace of God, I don't have a scar, but he had that knife up to my throat. And when he finally let me go, I was so hysterical because, we know that her head was cut off, right? So the reality was I could have just got my head cut off. And so I was screaming and hollering, and he came and grabbed me by my throat, and he lifted me up to his face because he was a little taller than me, and he took his mouth and put it over my mouth and bit my lips. And he left teeth marks all around my mouth. And I had him arrested, and then I bailed him out. So I rode that ride to the bitter end, to say the least. And I had another child. So now I got 2 ex-husbands and 2 children. And I'm still a young woman. I still believe in love, but I'm looking for love and settling for sex. And so I went on, and I made a decision. I told y'all I was raised in the church, and I really didn't know a lot about the world. I really wasn't somebody who, was like really out there, right? I was kind of naive to the world, but I was so disappointed in life at this point, and I'm still like in my late 20s, but I'm so disappointed with life that I made a decision that I was going to go out and I was going to live this really worldly lifestyle. I'm going to get me a dope boy. I'm going to get me some money. And I'm going to live like these other chicks living, because trying to be the good wife and the homemaker and all that, it didn't work. So I got me a dope boy. And I got exactly what my hand called for. He had a drug addiction, and because of his addiction to the dope, he couldn't perform sexually. So what he would do was just give me a lot of dope to just keep me quiet and, keep me satisfied. And so he gave me so much dope that I developed a habit. And so my drug of choice was powder. I didn't smoke crack, but the powder took me to my knees. And after a couple years of, dealing with him, I became like a liability. You know what I'm saying? I was costing him too much money. He's dope man. I'm all off into his, his product. I'm using too much, so he dropped me. And that's when it got real ugly. Because at that point now I'm just going to do whatever it takes to get one more, because I got to have it. And I realized I had a habit. And a lot of people, we come to Narcotics Anonymous and we don't realize already. We still somewhat in denial as to whether we're an addict. Well, I was not in denial when I got here. I already knew I was an addict. I had already tried to stop using. I'm only going to do it on the weekend. I'm only going to do it like this. I'm going to do it like that. I'm going to substitute this. I'm going to drink this weekend. I'm going to smoke weed this weekend. But it would always take me back to my knees. Crawling around, snorting drywall. You know what I'm saying? Stuck in the bathroom. Just sick behavior. I did a lot of things that I never, we differ in level of sickness and rate of recovery. And everybody didn't do what everybody else did. And I didn't do that. I didn't eat out the dumpster. I didn't have sex with no dogs. But I did have sex with a man in a wheelchair. That bothered me. I did have sex with a guy who honked and spit in my face while I was having sex with him. Calling me all kind of names because the dope was on the table. And I knew if I could just endure that moment, that I could get to the dope. So this is the stuff that keep you using. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I don't believe I just did that one, but I'm going to just numb myself and keep on doing what I'm doing. By the end of my run, I was homicidal because the dude that turned me out, I was plotting his murder. Me and my girlfriend, we was going to set him up. Primarily because I felt like he turned me out, like he ruined my life. But I wanted to get high. We come in here, we want to blame other people, places, and things. I wanted to blame my ex-husband for mistreating me when I thought I was the perfect wife. I wanted to blame my mother for, staying with the alcoholic husband and all that chaos and dysfunction that was in our household. I wanted to blame her. But at the end of the day, I made the decision to get high. I made the decision to keep using dope. And so when I realized I had a problem, I remember I called the treatment facility. Y'all remember the Oak Street? Bethesda Oak. Yeah, Bethesda Oak. I remember the first time I called them, they said, you're going to have to come in here and spend, a week or whatever, and this and that, inpatient. And by then I had started my business, and I was like, I can't just, I can't just like stop making my money to try to get clean. I didn't realize, that I was going downhill fast. Because see, I still had a facade. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I don't know if anybody else able to keep up the facade. I was able to keep up the facade. Because every weekend I had a new cat suit. You know what I'm saying? I was always at the club. I had a new car. I was hiding from the repo man. We lived in a house, and the house had 2 electric lines, right? One for the upstairs and one for the downstairs. So didn't nobody know the electric in the main part of the house was out. And I was running electric cords all through the house so we could keep the lights on. It was a facade. I didn't think that nobody knew that in my salon, every time I ran in the bathroom and took me a little toot, because I'm like, they can't smell it, I'm snorting. You see what I'm saying? They don't know what I'm doing, even though my pockets is touching in the back. Wearing a size 4 stretch denim. That's too big. Weave on crooked. See, they weren't calling me the weave master back then. I just did hair. I'm running in the bathroom, coming out, and I'm like, Pookie, hey, there's no one I had it to. They're like, oh, you ready to do some hair? Dope boy used to set me up every day. Bring me that dope in the morning, now I work for him all day long. You know what I'm saying? It's a setup. So when I called the treatment facility that first time, I was like, nah, I can't do all that. But a year later, when I was thoroughly beaten, and I had really actually reached my bottom, and I had tried everything on my own, and I knew that I needed help, I checked it on in. I checked it on in, and it was an addict that used to come and get her hair done by me, right? And she was like, how do you keep your weight down so good? I was like, girl, I'll be working out. And I told her, I said, but I take diet pills, She was like, oh, I can't take those. I'm a recovering addict. I said, a recovering addict? What is that? She said, well, I used to smoke crack. And I would turn $2 tricks. I said, say what? I said, you smoke crack? See, I was like Whitney. I don't smoke crack. Crack is whack. I did a rich girl's high. That was I'm trying to give somebody some identification. I don't know where you come from, but that's where I come from. I thought I was better than, and I don't get down like that. I didn't realize when I started putting that powder on the end of my cigarette, I was still smoking. You see what I'm saying? And so when she told me recovery existed, she planted a seed that never left. And then when I went and checked it in to the recovery treatment facility, she came to my house, and it was like the lights was on for the first time. You ever, like, when you come, my God. I was like, this how we been living? You know what I'm saying? She cleaned my house and put some food in the refrigerator and everything, and washed my kids up and all that. See, I didn't lose my kids. I don't know how, but I didn't lose them. I had a good mama. They never went into foster care, none of that. I thought I had enough change. I'd hire a nanny. You just stay here with them so I can go get high. That was the bottom line. You stay here with the kids so I can go get high. So I checked it in, and I came into the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, and I had to find some identification. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't get high with nobody in the rooms. I didn't see nobody that I got high with, because most of the time I got high by myself. So I didn't know nobody here, and I didn't do exactly what everybody did, but I did. And it took me to the same place that it took everybody else. So, when I came to my first meeting, I was like, oh, they don't know who I am. Fool! You an addict! Just like everybody else, you need to see, right? But the beauty of it is, recovery just began to happen so quickly in my life because I bought into this thing. I really did. Call it what you want to. I've always considered myself an intellectual, above average IQ, whatever. So I done analyzed the program, right? And I'm like, well, if it is a cult, it's working. And I might have just enough of a strong foundation in my other belief system that if I need to get out, I'll get out. But I'm going to stay here as long as I can stay here so that I can stop using this dope. And in the process, I let a few people into my life. Sponsorship became an intricate part of my process. This is a 12-step program. So if you want the results and you want the freedom that the steps give us, then you're going to have to work the steps. And so I began to work the steps. And the steps taught me how to incorporate spiritual principles in my life. And at some point now, don't forget, I told you I got here with a lot of low self-esteem, a lot of low self-worth, and I was still, practicing a lot of behavior. I got 13 steps, few times, still looking for love and settling for sex. But at some point in this process, enough was enough. After taking a look at what happened, the truth of the matter in that fourth step, and realizing that a lot of the behaviors that I was acting out on were birthed out of lies. Like the behavior, having that secret sexual life with women, for one. That was one of the first things I wanted God to remove out of my life. I don't know if anybody got here and they was like, God, take this thing off of me. Besides the dope, because there's a lot of things that we suffer from. And so that was one of the things because it never set right in my spirit. I ain't talking about how nobody else chooses to lose. I'm talking about me. It didn't never sit right within my spirit. And so when I got to the exact nature and realized that I wasn't a willing participant in the molestation that took place in my life at 5 years old by a female, that I don't know why I didn't tell nobody, but I didn't tell nobody, but it wasn't because I wanted to participate. That I really didn't like women, that I really liked men. That was when that behavior stopped. I got some freedom. Then I realized that I didn't want to keep on trying to practice the same behavior that I practiced as a little girl, trying to buy people, trying to buy friends, trying to buy men. A lot of women would get in my chair and then they would befriend me and then they just really wanted a hairdo. You know what I'm saying? They really just wanted a discount. And I would fall for the okie doke every time. But for real, I set myself up. I gave you the discount. I did your hair for free because I was trying to buy your friendship. Because that's all I ever knew how to do. I'm going to give you my stuff and then you're going to be my friend. So then I'm going to make me a man. I'm going to dust you off. I'm going to clean you up. And buy you some shoes. I'm going to let you drive my car. I'm going to let you stay in my house. I'm going to give you some walk around money. Why I got to do all that? Golly! What is wrong? What's wrong is I didn't think I was worthy. What's wrong is I have been abandoned. What's wrong is I picked the same kind of men on purpose. When I kept telling y'all ain't no good men out here, really, I didn't believe that I deserved to have one. So I always went and got me a good for nothing, no good. And I made them feel obligated to be with me because I gave you some money. Then when you left me, poor me, woe is me. But you didn't want me to begin with. I had to give myself a break. One day I said, you know what, God? If I got to be by myself, the God of my understanding. See, Narcotics Anonymous is a spiritual, not religious program. So when I came into Narcotics Anonymous with the dogma that was attached to the religious program that I was involved in, I didn't think that I could develop a relationship with the God of my understanding that was going to be loving and caring and forgiving. But the God I serve today forgave me for all of that stuff. I didn't bring that dogma along. I let that dogma go along the way and began to nurture a relationship with the God of my understanding that allowed me to walk into a happy matrimony with 5 years clean. I met the man of my dreams, right? And the beauty of it is, he chose me. He wanted me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm so grateful. Because he tells me all the time, if you hadn't pursued me, I probably would have lost interest. You know, because when a man found a wife, he found a good thing. And I'm a sure enough good thing. I ain't confused about it today. I just want to give somebody some hope. Because I made a decision that I was no longer willing to settle. You know, I was no longer willing to settle. I had some criteria. Narcotics Anonymous gave me some standards of living that I no longer had to compromise. So I just wanted to tell somebody today, you know, this thing works. Lost dreams awaken and new possibilities arise. I don't have enough time to tell you how full my life is today. I can't even tell you all. I can't even begin to tell you about the material blessings because it's too overwhelming. The spiritual blessings is just. I only gave you a tip of the iceberg. So if you put some type of cap on what you can get out of recovery, you're gonna miss the mark because the sky is the limit. I'm grateful. I'm grateful, and I'm so glad that y'all allowed me to share a little bit of my story. They told my time is up, so I'll be respectful to the next speaker. My name is Sharon S. Thank you for letting me share.